Hi, this is Jack Downs, and I've got a little Dreamweaver tutorial. This is an advanced piece. There's some overlap between this piece I'm doing and the video that's going to come next. This one's being made especially for the spring 2020 season and all of our changes. However, I had made a video like this earlier, even without this distance learning stuff. So really not a whole lot has changed. The point here is that I strongly encourage you to use the virtual lab to do your Dreamweaver work. And once you get used to it, you're going to see you'll be able to work along pretty well with only maybe some little minor changes and hiccups. But the other reason for making this is that some of you may be using your own copies of Dreamweaver. Some of you maybe will use a lab if the labs open up again or something, who knows. But really the point is that the full tutorial on Dreamweaver that you will follow in video and in text form. Remember, there's a text document for this. I strongly encourage you to get the text document out. If you've got a printer and plenty of paper, I like having the hard copy printed out actually. If not, you'll see it's all PDF, and you just go through page by page. Pause any video you're watching, read the pages, then do the work with the video. That's the way it's really designed to be done. And this is designed to be done completely self-tutorial. So the fact that I'm not there in the classroom shouldn't make any difference at all for this work. But here's what makes the difference, though. The tutorial was made with a different version of this program. The tutorial was made with Dreamweaver 2015, which was the last major update. Since then, some things have changed about the program, but they're kind of cosmetic. So I still believe it's the case that you can do almost everything pretty much just like is in the video with some very minor changes and get through it fine. However, maybe some of you have some other version of InDesign if you're working on your own, sorry, not InDesign, Dreamweaver, if you're working on your own version. Well, then that could be different too. So one way or the other, following the instructions and looking at what I'm asking you to do, occasionally, depending on what version you're using where, maybe the actual menu choices will be a little different or the icon choices will be a little different. So don't let that bother you. More just try to understand what I'm asking you to do. Okay, having said all that, if you're using the virtual lab, you've got this situation that I'm in right now where I'm in a browser, but I'm actually looking at the desktop of a computer in a lab. I'm actually looking at a desktop and a computer in the lab in Ward Hall right now. And actually in our classroom, because that one's been virtualized now also. And then you'll see I have my own bunch of taskbar here, but this is the taskbar on that computer. So I've got to stay organized in that way. The other issue I have is I got to get the files onto the computer. So you're going to go to Moodle, and not there, but where the heck did I put it? Actually, see, typical problem. I'm actually in, I got to keep track, and you see I just mixed up right there. I'm actually in a tab of the browser which is in the lab, so I've got to go to my Moodle here. So I have my browser in another tab in my browser. Open up the browser, open up Google Chrome in the lab, and I went into Moodle. And you'll see I also went into my email and opened up my drive, because you're going to need that too probably. Well, almost certainly. You don't have the option of putting a drive, like a physical drive, in the computer that you're playing with remotely. So you have to have some way to save your work when you're done. So first thing you're going to do is go to the Dreamweaver download folder in the resource area of Moodle and download this file. And you can do it with a save link as and put it where you want to, or you can just click on it and do a download. It's a zip folder, and it's going to end up someplace. For whatever reason, on this computer here right now, I don't actually have a T drive, a thaw space. I'm working in the download area. So you see I downloaded this file here, and when I go and look at it in the download area, I actually made a folder called Jack, and I dropped it in there. Then, of course, when you have the zip folder, remember, to open up the zip, you could double click on it and use an unzipping program, or I like to open with Windows Explorer. I'm going to copy the thing out and I'm going to paste it. And the point here is some of these procedures you'll see again later, but I'm working in a browser, in a My Computer window within a browser, because I'm actually working on a different computer. So I just want to get that idea across. And then I could delete the original. I think it's going to be more important than ever to keep track of things and keep organized. So I really encourage you to be renaming things. So this is going to be Dreamweaver, and I think you maybe want to use the date, right? So I'm going to say this is 3/22/20. And then maybe put a 0 there. If I'm going to be working on just for today, I could put a time in it. I could number these files. I want to keep track of them though, because they're going to be changing perhaps. You're going to have updates and so on. Always make sure you have the current one. If I look inside that folder, you'll see in here it's just folders, just normal stuff. And in a later video, you see me going through the folder. But I want to go through the idea of downloading the file here. Okay, and let's move ahead. Let's say I'm going to open up Dreamweaver. Of course, I've had to do my dual. I already have Dreamweaver open. I already had the browser open. The dual, and I've already gotten a Moodle. To do all those things, I had to have my phone and my dual login and so on. So I've got Dreamweaver open. Okay, here's a couple of things I want to tell you about Dreamweaver. This is Dreamweaver on the computer in the lab through the browser. When you first open it, and maybe every time you open it in a lab, you're going to get this splash screen. And it's going to, and you say, how should I respond to this? I think you should say, yes, I have. Then it's going to say, welcome back. And it's going to say, what color do you want for your workspace? Right? This is kind of a new thing in this version and wasn't there in the old version. All right. So what's the point? I strongly encourage you to choose the light colored workspace because it'll look more like the screen in my video. I think it's also easier to see, and I don't like all the Adobe dark workspaces that they have these days. But that's just me. It's a personal thing. It's really up to you. It doesn't change the way it works or anything. Then it says, what about a workspace? Well, this is an important decision. However, it's not a permanent one. You could change your workspace at any time, but you might as well pick it now. It's trying to say there's some new things with this program. They're not really that new. But okay, it's going to force me to do this, so I'll pick standard workspace, which is what you should do too. And then it says, check out some more of our new features, and it gives you the option of an X here. And I'd say, use the X. You want to spend some time and go through these things? Fine with me. It's not going to hurt you anyway. Not that helpful either. So just hit the X is my suggestion. Then it says, welcome to the new Dreamweaver, so on and so forth. And I'm getting some other stuff going on. Oh my goodness, it's going to ask me to do the Adobe login now here too. Oh, come on. Blinking, blinking, blinking. For some reason, it didn't ask me to do this earlier. And again, I'm working in a browser on somebody else, on the desktop of a remote computer. Yeah, continue. And it's company or school account. A little concern about how everybody's system is going to work when we have lots of people working in these labs at the same time and all this stuff happening remotely. But we'll see how it goes. And you get to see me log in. Okay, that was a lot of work to get to this point, but I'm finally here. We can kind of ignore all this open and new stuff right here. We're not going to be using that really. But here's what I wanted to show you here, is that we are in the standard workspace, and that's good. That's where we want to be. There are other workspaces here. and let's not worry about them except standard as we want to be. In fact, you'll see that this program doesn't have anywhere near as many workspaces provided as some other Adobe programs. Also, you see the Workspace doesn't do that much for you really either. In fact, it does even less than it used to do. In fact, there's something important that we're missing. Every time you start up, I think what you should do is we're gonna open up the properties. Here it is under Window Properties. This is the Properties panel, or as we used to call it, and you may hear me sometimes still call it Property Inspector, which is what it used to be called. So go ahead and open that up. It's taking a while, and I'm blinking in my cursor. So this is an important panel that you're going to see me use in the tutorial. You may have to open it every time when you start up. Where are you going to put it? I would suggest you grab a hold of it and dock it at the bottom. You see that blue line come up? That means you can dock it right there. The blue line comes up, I let up, and there it is down there. Okay. Something else I want you to see is, well, let me just go ahead and talk to you about site definition a little bit. Just because this is going to be repetition from later in the videos, but it's a really important point. I strongly encourage you to use what I call site definition, and Adobe Dreamweaver still to some degree calls it. It's the new site method of starting up every time. And it seems a little counterintuitive to say new site. What about later when you've been working on this for 3 days? Is it still a new site? Yes, it is. Every time you start up, you go site, new site. It is true, if you ever had the same computer and you used managed sites, you'd have the sites listed here. But probably in the lab you never will. And if you did, you could just click on there. But that's not really your choice here. So it's going to be site, new site. Now I've already downloaded my folder. I'm not going to bother looking through it for you. That will come later in another video. I will show you one more thing about the folders in a minute. But this new site procedure is really important. You'll see me do it in the videos. I want to strongly encourage you to do it also. I'm actually going to choose a site. I'll just remind you here that the name you use is not important at all, but you might want to use a name with a date. Just to keep track of it. But the naming rules don't apply either. This doesn't make a real file or anything like that. That's not what's going on here. It's just keeping track of an overall project. So it's not a real name that you have to worry about. But this button is real. Browse for folder means this is they call it your local site folder. We would call it the root folder. And there is a root folder. And I have a root folder, which I already started. I made my stuff in the download area because, as I said, the T drive wasn't available on this computer. Don't know why. And there's my Dreamweaver already, my old Dreamweaver. However, I believe I have another one here, Dreamweaver tutorial, which I have, which is one which is partway done, maybe even mostly done, I guess. I'm going to go inside there, and I'm going to open up my root folder, which is called Bayside Tutorial. I can see I'm inside the root folder because I can see my subfolders there. Those will be subfolders for you to know. And I can go ahead and say select folder, and now I've chosen the root folder. Next thing you do is go Advanced Settings. All right, local info. No, we are. And then yes, right. Advanced settings, local info, default images for folder. Default images folder, which is to find the images folder because we have one already made and does have images in it. You've given those as part of this zip folder that you had to download. I'm going to select that, and then I'm going to say save. And you'll see a number of things happen as it's updating the site cache and doing other things. I don't know what it's doing. But eventually, you will see I get some files over here in the Files panel. And since I've already made these, I can open that up with a double click and see that I have a partly made project here already being worked on, but needs some more work, obviously. What are these windows? What do they mean? What are these tabs up here? What do they mean? All that stuff. That's coming along in the tutorial as we move forward. Excuse me. So, and also this idea of code and split and live view is important too. But I actually have, you can see I have a document open now, and I also have a code view open here too. All right, But the point I wanted to bring up is that one of the other differences in this program, sure, some things on the screen look a little different, but really almost everything is here in almost exactly the same place for my videos. But one of the other differences is the space that's being left over here for all these panels. As you're doing the first half of the tutorial, before you get into using the CSS Designer over here, click on the CSS Designer tab, okay? And these pauses are part of the remote use. Everything to this point, you're fine with the amount of space they have, but when you see the CSS Designer in one big row like this, or a big column like this, I mean, then you need to make this screen wider so it goes into two, so it splits up. And this is one thing that will look different on my screen in the videos. The earlier versions were set up this way so that you almost always it already had taken up this much space to allow this to come into like two columns of stuff. When you're using the CS Designer, you really want to have all this panel area open wider, not narrower. So it's one column open wider until it pops into two, so you can get more work in here, get more stuff you can get into, and see it more clearly. So that's something else that's different from one version to the other. Okay, and the other thing that's going to be different is, let's say you save your work and you go along, and you're either not completely done, but you're done for the day, done as much as you're going to do right now. All right, so how are you going to get this stuff out of this computer, which is down in Ward Hall and yours someplace else, who knows where, and save it, and then to be able to come back and use it again? You can't depend on getting that same computer again. That wouldn't really be safe anyway. Maybe you'll get lucky, and next time you go in, it'll be there too. And if you use the same lab, maybe it will be. On the other hand, what I suggest you do is, let's say I am all done working and I've saved my work and I've closed everything up, and I've probably closed up the program too. Good. And I have my drive open here, right? So I'm going to go into my computer window again, making sure I'm keeping track, and I'm here in my browser and not on my own computer. So I'm going to go to my computer window, and let's say that this Dreamweaver tutorial, I'm going to go in here into my Jack folder, which would be a better way to keep track of things. And let's say this is the folder of the stuff I worked on today, but I'm done with it for now. This is what I think you should do. You should zip it, do a right click, send to compress zip folders. Good. And then you should take it and you should drag it into your drive. Make a copy of it into the drive. And then if you look at recent items, for instance, because it'll be the most recent thing, you can see that it's there. Right there it is. And then later, when you are going to keep on working, again, you go back to your drive and you're ready to work some more. All right, that's when you're going to do a right click on that and choose download. Again, in the browser, which is in the in the browser, which is remotely working in the browser using the drive still, but remotely on that other computer, wherever it is. And then you're gonna download it, and it's gonna download to that computer, and then you're going to go and have it show you the folder or go look at that place, and you see it's going to be there. And then I would unzip it and I would change the name of it again as you continue to work, add a 1 or a 2 or something else, right? So you know it's the newest one. And then after you get done working again, you'd zip it up and you stick it in your drive again. So why using the drive? Well, we can't use, as I said, we can't use a physical drive. And let me warn you that there's going to be a problem with using email for this. Sometimes Google Mail will not let you send these Dreamweaver zipped folders because they've got JavaScript in them. They actually have programming in them. Sometimes the virus protection, we're going to grab them and say, no, you can't do it. So that's going to be the problem. You could use a Moodle Dropbox. That would work. You could put it in a Moodle Dropbox and then go get it out again. Remember, you got control over those Moodle Dropboxes, and they will actually hold a lot of things, and they're actually very big things. Well, this file is not that big. They'll handle zip files fine, and they don't care if there's programming in them. So I think there's going to be a problem using email to email it to yourself. Using your drive seems to work fine, and then download it again. But I'm a little worried that you're going to have a lot of files in your drive. You can keep deleting as you go, or just make sure you give it a fresh new name and you keep the dates so you're always sure which is the newest one as you continue. All right, so that's my little getting started with Dreamweaver. Now you can just continue on with the regular videos and exercises as we go, with the fact that there may be some differences depending on version and depending on working on in the lab or working on your own computer. Give yourself, an hour or so at a time on this. I'm told now we don't have to worry so much about the remote computers kicking you off after an hour. They're telling me now that's only an hour of inactivity. So if you're still working and moving and doing stuff, then you should be fine. But I would really encourage you to save regularly, and at least every hour or so, zip up a new folder and stick it back on your drive, and then continue along. Good luck, and let me know how it goes.